Вспоминая сейчас свою жизнь,
I remember perhaps the most important thing in my life is that it is consistent.
Наверное, главное в моей жизни то, что она последовательна.
As long as I can remember, I was such an impressionable boy, overwhelmed by some strange fantasies.
Обуреваемый какими-то страхами или же наоборот фантазиями. Вот я помню себя в детстве такой.
I remember my childhood. I did not even want to sleep. I was excited about upcoming morning. I had a desire to understand everything, and I understood such a thing that you cannot understand what you don't know. Yes, this is Askar Esenbayev. Let's try this name, and we will feel hundreds of shades. An unrepeatable, generous artist in whose hands there is the whole world created by him. It was he who specially went to Florence, Rome, to learn and create himself. It was he who was standing in Paris at the portrait of Gioconda to follow Leonardo's way. The shade of the magnificence of his works adorns the most prestigious museum collections around the world, the State Tretyakov Gallery, the State Kosteyev Museum, private collections of Kazakhstan, Russia, the USA, Italy, France, South Korea. The shade of his personal life is spiritual and artistic throwing, the loss of his beloved wife and child, the experience of clinical death, of course, rebellious actions. And finally, the shade is the truth. Askar Esenbayev today is a large-scale, honest, who can create everything, realize any thought, and the only one, of course, the artist who created about 200 sculptural works.
Он за те годы, что я с ним общаюсь, это больше 15 лет, он очень многое...
He did a lot of new things in art. He began with realistic form.
Начинал с реалистической формы, когда нужно точно передать...
When you need to accurately depict nature, but in such a Roman interpretation.
Потом он пошел в сторону абстракции, когда...
Then he went in the direction of abstraction, when the geometric form, only volumetric, was supposed to inform the person some symbols.
Символы, знаки. И здесь он работал, на таких тончайших...
And here he worked on such subtle line, relationships, height differences, and in fact, I did not meet a man who would say that this form is not clear. Academician of the Academy of Arts, Askar Esenbayev, refers to 80s. There was a special atmosphere of creative knowledge in the Almaty Art College, the Moscow State Art Institute named after Surikov. He was young, full of ideas and good intentions, and he immediately introduced himself as a bright professional master. He is the first artist to realize the idea of exhibition projects in France, Germany, and the United States, and represents our artists abroad, whose work became a revelation and the discovery of a whole world of nomads.
Я в основном следовал больше, может быть...
I basically followed more Western art. This is Italy, the Renaissance, antiquity, etc. And my works of that period bear such a mark, i.e. classicism.
Конечно же, в то время уже меня интересовали и такое беспредметное искусство.
Of course, at this time, I was interested in such pointless art. I remember I discovered classical music. It means I discovered the opportunity for such an indirect expression of the need, its essence.
Выражение своей, внутренних потребностей, своей сути. У всех в жизни происходят потери, родных, близких людей. Я тоже не исключение.
I lost my wife, the child. She was pregnant at that time. As consequence, I began to think about God, for example.
Я начал задуматься о Боге, например. Потому что, опять же, вопросы, они...
Again, questions, they are very important, because if you do not ask questions, there will be no answer. A person is being that suffers, who wants to be free, who wants to love, be loved.
Существо, которое страдает, которое хочет быть свободным, которое хочет любить, быть любимым. Вот. И что трагедия человеческая в том, что...
And the tragedy of man is that we, even wanting this, usually people cannot do it, neither for himself nor for other people. And I started to rely on this. I continued to live. I met Dana.
Продолжать жить. И я встретил Дану.
Уже прошло 20 лет. Он до сих пор занимается...
20 years have already passed, and he is still doing. He constantly develops, reads a lot, and he is still interested in many things. If necessary, he looks for people, if he needs to talk. It surprises me that he is so restless, moving forward. He does not stand still. The artist is confident that whatever does happen to any of the people, all this leaves a mark on the chosen line of life, and his creativity is a logical follow-up to those overreactions that fell to the lot of his family. It was in 1937. People faced hard time. His mother's surname is Yermekova. This is Alikhan Yermekov, deputy chairman of the Alash party. Her uncle Temurbek Jurgenov, People's Commissar for Culture, organizer of the first decade of arts of Kazakhstan in Moscow, was the husband of her aunt, Demitai Yermekova. They were educated and freedom-loving individuals. Mother of Askar in her spirit belonged to strong-willed and decisive natures. She delicately directed him to the art college.
Я так полагаю, что не события какие-то руководят жизнью.
I believe that events influence life, history, people, and the existence of such people who are able to feel deeply and deeply penetrate the essence of problems.
Глубоко проникать в суть проблем. Вот. И я так полагаю, что если есть
I think that if there are such people in any particular country, then they will be the future of these people.
Составлять будущее этого народа.
Что сделал Аскар? Ну, он стал каким-то таким поразительным.
What did Askar do? He became such an amazing patriot of the Turkic world, and he decided to make this ancient culture for modern. He moved on to be very subtle, existential reasons. And when you look at this form, it seems that the bronze is soft. It is influenced by the environment. It is under the influence of a person. It changes its volume, its surface, its texture. It is amazing, always exciting.
Старшая дочь, тогда вот, когда первую скульптуру он сделал вот с нее, ей было лет...
When he made the first sculpture of the eldest daughter, she was 6 when he started this work. And we bought sweets for her, because it was necessary to stand, pose.
Нужно было позировать. Но в то же время это был такой вот тоже хороший опыт общения с папой.
But at the same time, it was a good experience of communication for me with my husband, just like an artist. Because you look from the side and you see that this is not only a complicated process.
Это глубокий такой процесс, когда ты, можно сказать, вживаешься.
It's such a process when you get used to this image, uncover it, see what other people do not see. I even had an idea to put the camera so unnoticed, to shoot for memory. To shoot the best moments with your family, thinking he always talks about the importance of raising children. They must perceive the world multifaceted, engage in art, music, love and feel nature. In his country house, Askar creates an atmosphere of harmony and warmth. Sometimes he sits at the river for a long time, looking at the streams of water. Perhaps at such moments new ideas are born. And sometimes the idea captures him so much that he sits down and embodies what was conceived at the beginning in plasticine. There is silence around and natural splendor. Unless disturbed by the sound of music, that's when the artist is really happy. Harmony of beauty. I think this is a shade of truth. The sculptures of Askar Esenbayev represent a certain materialized truth about life, where everything is in harmony with form and content. In his works there is always a divine, and the artist himself does not deny its presence in the works.
Я обнаружил такую вещь, что наряду с античной, например, культурой,
And I discovered such a thing that along with the ancient, for example, culture, with ancient civilization, there was the art of nomadic culture.
Искусство, культура номадов, в которую бы входили не только, допустим, народы такие традиционные, вот Центральной Азии,
which would include not only the peoples of Central Asia, the same Scythians at the European part, the same American Indians, and so on. This is a huge section.
Ну и так далее. То есть это огромный раздел. Вы представляете, вот идя таким путем и создавая эти произведения, то есть
You imagine walking this way, creating these works, studying all the architectonics. I suddenly found the brightness and vividness of the vision of history, the view of the world, the history of the world from Central Asia.
Видение истории, взгляд на мир, на историю мира из Центральной Азии.
Он стал работать, ну, так скажем, на стыке множества культур.
He began to work at the junction of many cultures.
Душа замерла, затылок.
He first made Abay, it's just the soul froze. The back of his head turned cold, because suddenly Abay became the embodiment of not only the Kazakh world, but all Turkey.
Ну и всего тюркского, в нем как бы такое вечность.
Of course, we already know that Abay entered into eternity.
Вечность, но теперь это в пластике образовалось, и при этом
Now we notice an existential beginning that is relevant to Europe.
Начало, то, что это характерно для Европы.
Я думаю, что, может быть, мы до конца не осознаем, вот я, мои дети, что...
I think that we are not fully aware, I and my children, that sculptures, they are already part of our life. Due to his works, you would think about some things more sublime, more subtle.
Казахи – это кочевники. Это правопреемники той кочевой номадической культуры, которая...
Kazakhs are nomads of that nomadic culture, which played its very important historical role. And I gradually began to realize myself the part of this continuous story.
Частью тоже вот непрерывной истории. И не сразу, конечно же, но у меня появился такой вот интерес именно к Балбала.
And not immediately, of course. I had such an interest specifically for Balbala. And it was such a happy discovery. Of course, and it was programmed as it was. Then it really is the art of nomadic peoples, that's the Kazakhs. I believe that Kazakhs are successors despite the fact that the century, the era of nomads has gone. Peering into the artist's endless process of creativity, his desire to discover novelty in past, bygone days becomes clear. Embody mysterious, nameless creatures into shape. He goes along the steppe paths, collecting in pieces the traces of caravans of ancient art. However, there is something fantastic and perhaps far from the truth. But it goes from the depths of centuries. The great pious one turns to us, and his legends with some invisible stream descends right into the heart of the artist.
То есть это были люди, которые что-то принесли в этот мир.
You can say that this is the way of the ancestors. Abba is Balbal in my interpretation. It was people who brought something into this world, to this region, maybe. They are people of the world. They have done something memorable, something very important for people. Here, at different times, in different parts of the world, I can say that the Balbal are present in my works. I would very much. There was such a symbol as the cup. This is sacrifice. This is the memory of ancestors, preservation of the very best. And now I even assume this. In time, I hope it will be. Come into a museum of the world, see there a section of nomads.
Увидеть там раздел, буквально, номады.
Когда он приносит уже готовую работу в материале домой, он начинает со мной, ну, как бы не то чтобы советоваться, а спрашивать, тут как тебе?
When he brings his new work home, he begins to consult with me. He asks, do you like? We understand some things are not clear. I cannot say anything about these, but just the feeling itself. He asked me for advice. How do you feel? Did I realize what I wanted to convey? And in this sense, we can say that we are partners. We begin a discussion with him.
То есть мы начинаем с ним обсуждать это, где-то что-то я...
This is something I definitely like. And I say that I feel like you wanted.
То, как ты хотел сделать. Иногда мы даже начинаем обсуждать в связи с какой-то уже...
Sometimes we start to discuss some finished work that we can make a series. Let's say, which even further would move this idea. Up to 16 years old, he seemed to live a double life, inner among the images and knowledge, and they were so bright that sometimes he confused where the reality is and where what's inside. Grandmother invested in him the truth about what is good and what is bad. He was young, full of ideas and good intentions. It was at this time that the idea of new works was born, which according to the art connoisseurs became significant.
Когда смотришь на его апостола Петра, не важно, что это.
When you look at his apostle Peter, it does not matter that this is a Christian character. This is any person who during his life has crossed the line from the primitive state of the human soul. And I like this series of reliefs. I cannot fully explain why, but there is something, maybe some kind of patriarchy.
Мне понадобилось очень много времени для того, чтобы я мог впитать вот мировую.
It took me a very long time to absorb the world culture, world history. In order to realize who I am in this world process, I began to understand my importance as an artist. Everything I do is done to make it happen. Well, at least the outline of my life. Askar Esenbayev, a man who passed the test of life, did not leave himself alone with emptiness. All that he had go through transformed into a wise world of serious, deeply moral feelings. His work is absolutely positive, with a sense of joy of being. These are works of really happy person. As an artist, he can create everything, realize any thought. And I think that in order to understand how this world is beautiful, you just need to peer into the philosophical kindness of his works. Then let's follow him, the artist Askar Esenbayev.